Welcome to the Legal CFO.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the show where clarity meets profitability. That's the Legal CFO with Ryan Kimler, the founder of NetProfit CFO. If you're a law firm owner looking to get a handle on your finances, grow your bottom line, and finally take control of your numbers, you're in the right place. Each episode, Ryan breaks down the business side of law with straightforward strategies to help your firm run smarter, earn more, and scale with confidence. I'm Sean O'Connor, and today Ryan and I are getting into costs that don't always show up clearly, but have a real impact on your bottom line. Hi, Ryan.
Hey, Sean. Thank you for having me on the show today.
You bet. Always interesting in terms of, I don't often think about law firms in terms of profit and law. I mean, they're a business, of course, and I get it. And I have the luxury of not needing to worry about it too much because I'm talking into a microphone, not practicing law. But why do, in your experience, Ryan, why do so many law firm owners feel like their expenses are under control, even when, hidden costs might be sort of quietly eroding profit?
Sure. Yeah, I think it's sometimes a lack of just some additional financial numbers, right? A lack of tracking sometimes, and some of the data that really drives the expenses that we have doesn't always show up directly on the profit and loss. And so there's some additional numbers that we need to watch out for, plus other things in the marketplace that have been going on over the last few years that I can think of. A lot of price increases across the board, across a lot of services, a lot of products.
Yeah,
and all of a sudden you
things
look
kind
up
of sneak up on you a little bit, right?
for
You know,
sure.
your office
Yes.
manager who's buying the paper, so to speak, or whatever. You got to buy the paper. You got to buy the paper, for the printer.
Yep.
But it's now, $5 more a case or whatever it is. That doesn't necessarily raise any red flags.
Yes, exactly. Things like that are definitely a good example. And the softwares that we use, right?
Oh, yeah.
Even in
Subscriptions and such.
yes, and especially ones that are per user, right? Small changes there. If it's $10 per user and you've got, per month and you've got 10 members on the team, that can really add up over time. So those kind of things are a few things that come to mind, and I'm sure we'll dive into these as we go.
Yeah. Well, that's interesting too, because you and I spoke recently about, growing and when you're ready to grow. And one of those expenses of adding a new attorney is, well, they're going to need a software license.
That's right.
Which maybe doesn't always get accounted for. Are there other
That's right.
costs? Are there other types of costs that kind of go unnoticed or firms didn't see any reason to track?
Yeah, so I think a really big one can be malpractice insurance, right? So obviously, as we grow, kind of tying right into what you and I talked about recently,
Yeah.
obviously the more attorneys that you've got at your firm, especially if they've been in practice a little while, right? That's going to move that insurance number. Now, a lot of times, I know a lot of the firms that we work with, they pay that bill on an annual basis. And sometimes, again, if you've really hired or changed the number of members at your firm, the increase from one year to another can be unexpected. So
Yeah, right.
that is definitely one area. Yeah, I would encourage everyone listening to the show, aside from the insurance part of it, which can be hard to calculate, hard to predict, go and look at all the subscriptions that you've got for each attorney, right? So that you get down to, if I add a brand new attorney to my team, or it could be a paralegal too,
Sure.
what are the subscriptions and what's the total cost, right? Again, I think the listeners would probably be surprised. You don't think about all of the tools, that you're using, right? We've probably all got like an Adobe, AI tools, right? Legal
Sure.
research tools, practice management software
one of
tools.
one of the lead partners in the firm or whatever. I've got people doing some work that I kind of don't touch anymore, and you kind of lose touch with the fact that, oh yeah, there's software being used that I didn't even know about, maybe.
Absolutely. And it could be different for different practice areas too. There could be, if you've got more than one practice area at your firm, could be softwares that a different practice area uses that, might not be top of mind for you. So the cost could even be different. It might not always be the same for your next lawyer. even just at your firm. So I would encourage all of you that are tuning in and listening, go and figure out what that number is.
And why do you think these costs get missed? I mean, even when a firm is reviewing financials regularly, I mean, is it just uh, the way in which they're tracking things? Are there other reasons that you see that, oh, that's why these costs are consistently missed? Not just, blinders.
Yeah, sometimes, and sometimes I think just level of importance,
Yeah.
right? These are the kind of things that we don't always think of, that we don't look at as moving the needle in a massive way. And so just, how much time we spend analyzing them or scrutinizing them is probably kept pretty minimal. So that's a couple of the reasons why I see that, they typically
Makes
get
sense.
missed.
Yeah.
Yep.
These,
Yep.
you kind of mentioned like some of these costs are like, meh, whatever, no big deal.
Yep.
But I'm curious what you've seen in terms of how the small but recurring expenses add up in a way that actually does meaningfully impact profitability over time. Are there any like especially insidious recurring expenses that you see that people are often surprised, like, oh wow, I didn't even think of that.
Yeah, one of the big ones too are case costs. So I know there are some practice areas where you go to court, you pay a filing fee, and you're billing that to the client, right? And that is a pass through.
Yeah.
That's fine as long as you're getting paid back by your client. You're getting paid back and made whole. I'm sure that every law firm tuning in has probably had that client that didn't pay them, so you're out of pocket that filing fee.
Sure.
It's going to happen, right? But I want to address kind of, a couple other practice areas that you charge things on a flat fee and then you end up paying the filing fee. A great example is probably trademarks. I know a lot of law firms do trademarks on a flat rate basis, and then they're paying the registration fee with the U.S. Patent Office or Trademark Office. They're paying that out of pocket. And the same is probably true for patents as well, right?
Sure.
If those costs go up, and the same can be true with immigration firms, right? If those costs go up for filing those forms, that affects you across the board, right?
Oh,
Even if
right.
it's just
So you might have set your flat fee for these certain areas. Hell, you might have
Yep.
set them 5 years ago.
Yep.
And now, and little by little, whether the government or other agencies or services you're using, they've had to increase fees, but they're not really. So little by little, that's going to erode what you thought was the coverage that you had for, the time it takes for someone to take that down to the courthouse, so to speak.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yep, absolutely. And again, that could be potentially across all of your cases, right? And so it might seem small,
Yeah.
right? But if all of a sudden, to register a trademark, it goes up $10, and let's just say your firm did, 1,000 cases last year,
Yeah.
all of a sudden we're talking 10 grand.
Yeah.
Right. It's a
lot.
5-figure bill.
Yeah.
Right.
I
So,
crossed the street to pick that up. Absolutely.
right. So it can, again, when you're multiplying by volume, that's where it can make a big impact. And sometimes we just don't think about it of, because the expenses move, I need to move my flat rate. Right.
Yeah. Yeah. There is an anchoring that happens too. I mean, I think I don't know about the legal industry per se, but I think about I've worked in consulting and such, and there's times like, oh my, I'm getting paid $150 an hour, let's say, and you're like, wait, I've been getting paid $150 an hour for 10 years. I need to raise my rate. Like that's another conversation, I know, but it's like you kind of forget. I don't know. There's such something, you become anchored, and then
Yep.
then there's a fear or inertia around raising rates because you're afraid you might lose clients. But that's another episode, I'm sure. I wanted to ask
Yes.
about staffing. Forget about like the cost of contracts, or I mean subscriptions and some of that, which we've covered. But like staffing decisions create costs. Obviously, you think of salary, and you mentioned malpractice, insurance fees, and such. But are there less obvious costs that show up later in the numbers from adding staffing?
Healthcare.
Oh,
Healthcare is the number one that comes to mind, especially since that's an industry that, again, it seems like every year we get an increase no matter what happens.
Yeah.
And that ends up being across the board. And a lot of firms that we work with, they split the healthcare cost in some way, right? Now that could be 50-50, right?
oh,
Like
got it. Right.
50%.
With the employees, right? We're covering
Correct.
X, you're covering Y. Yeah.
Correct. There is always a split there. But when you're continually taking increases year over year, even if your split stays the same, you still get half of the increase and your
Yeah, it's still a bigger
employee
number.
gets
Yeah.
half of the increase. Yep, if it's 50-50, right? And your increase, the bigger team that you have, your increase is across multiple people, not just with one person. So,
Yeah.
so that's one of the big ones that comes to mind.
It's a good one.
As far as with staff. And then you had talked about it a little bit earlier, but logging costs and really tracking what we're using as an office. Those couple things are really important, and really tracking data around that, right? Making sure that we have good procedures in place and that we're not missing expenses, right? Where I've seen this too, where we have a filing fee and it gets put on a firm credit card and then it doesn't end up getting billed.
Yeah.
Right.
So now you got to make sure you get the systems in place, software or
Yep.
whatever it is. That's like $10 get. Yeah, I get it. I
Yep.
understand. And I
Otherwise,
totally
you're
understand
not
how
going to
that
be
would
made
get
whole.
missed.
Yep.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you're not going to be made whole. And
Yeah.
and again, that kind of stuff seems small, but I've got an immigration firm that I've worked with, and when you're overnighting, forms and overnighting, again, applications to be sent in, and all of a sudden it's like $30 a piece,
Yeah.
$40 a
That's real
piece,
money.
right? For sure, especially when you're doing high volume, right?
Yeah.
$30 a piece times 100 applications in a month, right?
Yeah.
Really adds up over time. So
And a lot of
you
times
see,
too, it's happening like there is a certain crisis sometimes that you're trying to avert, and I
yep,
could see how like the receipt got lost, so to speak. I mean, not literally because it's all digital, but
yep,
wow.
yeah. So just having good systems for that to review that is
Yeah.
great.
What about, I'm curious, you mentioned the immigration firm you're working with, and is there an example in your recent past that, where a firm uncovered some hidden costs and we're like, whoa, like surprised them the most? I didn't know we were spending so much on cookies.
Yeah. So the filing fees was definitely one of the biggest that I can remember, and just how much was unbilled. Even in the recent history, like we went back over the last 2 or 3 months, that they could go back and kind of,
At a
I'll call it
glance,
back.
look.
Yeah, kind of catch up, right? Back
Yeah.
billing, whatever you want to call it. Even that was 5 figures,
Oh, wow.
right? So just from the last few months.
You could just
So
project out, well, let's just go back another 7 months. Anecdotally, there's going to be at least that much money that you're not going to get back.
yep, exactly.
Wow.
Yeah, so that's a really big one. And then, another big one that kind of ends up in cost in a roundabout way. I've talked with a couple of firms, and when you have two attorneys that get together and meet to strategize around a case, not billing that time. Now, I understand if you don't want to bill it for both attorneys, that's kind of
Sure.
like double billing, right? If
Yeah.
let's just say they both have $500 an hour rates,
Yeah.
that's $1,000 instead of, well, it was 1 hour, right? And it's kind of like, well, we've doubled up there, right? And in
Yeah.
our
So I mean,
clients,
in that kind of a scenario, it's like it's fine if you're choosing not to, or you're calling these hours cheaper out, however you want to. But are you aware that it's happening? And if you're not billing, consciously not billing is fine. But if you're accidentally not billing, that's a no-go.
and at least I would say, bill one of the rates, right? And to me, my rule of thumb is always the highest rate in the room. That's the hour that we're taking, right? Because that's the level of expertise that we're requiring, right? And so if you want to avoid the double billing argument, that's fine. But taking the highest hour in the room. And this isn't an expense per se, right? But missing those hours means less revenue dollars for the firm.
It is
right?
Not an expense, but it's a cost.
For sure. And you're paying those employees, if you're the owner, for that hour on both sides.
For
right?
sure. Yeah.
And your return in that case, if you're not billing at least one person in the room's time, right? I mean, return might be better results for clients, things like that, but return dollars wise, zero.
Yeah. Goose
right?
egg. Right.
So that can be huge over the course of a year, right? Think of
no doubt.
4 or 5 hours a week, meeting with different meetings, within your firm to talk strategy, right? Times, 52 weeks in a year, times highest hourly rate. You could definitely rack up 6 figures.
Yeah. Well, for listeners out there, they want to identify hidden cost. Like I could see if I were running a firm and I'm listening to this program right now, and it's like, okay, I'm on a mission now. I want to find some hidden costs. Where do you recommend they start looking?
Yep. So really 2 places. And I would say get your accountant's help with this as well, right? Have them put together, number 1, what are our recurring expenses? So that's probably going to capture a lot of the things like your software subscriptions, right? And the tools that you're using. So I think that's one category that I would kind of go through and look at and have your accountant really work at and put together a list for you. That would be super ideal.
Got it.
And then second category I would definitely look at, because I see this a lot. I would have your accountant group together all of the expenses that are related to marketing. A lot of times, some of these marketing, if you have page ads or something like that, can continue to grow. If you're advertising online, just having a good handle on what did we spend on Google ads last month, right? Looking through those things, really evaluating, making sure that we're getting a return. Sometimes it's just been a recurring marketing expense for so long, and it's just a habit. Really going back and again, analyzing those types of things. Are we getting a return? How many leads have we gotten from it? How many cases have we gotten from it? Those are all good things to look at and review. Those are the top 2 categories that I would pick.
That's awesome. I mean, I was talking to an attorney a few days ago, and their specialty is in helping firms with their with all their SEO and advertising, and they were speaking to that, which is, they set this thing in motion 3 years ago, which was a good thing to do, and meanwhile, the world has shifted, the technology has shifted, and they're throwing X amount of dollars at some sort of search engine, keyword thing or whatever, and it's a hole in the bucket. The water's just leaking out. So great stuff, man. For sure. Also, anecdotally, I got my hair cut today, and the barbershop didn't have the lollipops out, and I'm like, what? No lollipops? What's going on? It was like an expense thing. It turns out that the greedy adults were taking too many lollipops, and they had to put them behind the counter, and so they had a mug that said "kids only." Anyway, that's another episode. Check your lollipop expenses.
That's right.
All right. Listen, Ryan, great to talk to you. We're out of time, but I really enjoyed it, and we'll talk again soon, I'm sure.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me.
See you. That's it for today's episode of the Legal CFO. If you want to get a clearer picture of where your money is actually going and stop hidden costs from eating into your profit, Ryan Kimler and the team at NetProfit CFO can help you break it down and take control. Visit their website, NetProfitCFO.com, to learn more, explore the resources they've got for you there. You can even book a profit growth call. Thanks for listening, and be sure to subscribe to the show. Maybe share a link with someone in your world who you think would be interested in this topic. I'm Sean O'Connor. Have a great day.
Thanks for watching. Be sure to hit that like and subscribe button and leave us a review in the comments.